Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. You are welcome to yet another economics class, and today we shall be concluding our discussion on the theory of demand. As a brief reminder, last time when we started the topic, we were able to introduce ourselves to what demand is all about. We were able to consider the laws of demand, types of demand, as well as factors affecting the demand. Today, as I said earlier on, we are going to look at the concluding aspect of this topic. And the remaining subtopics that we shall be considering include changes in demand, as well as abnormal demand, which is also known as exceptional demand. Changes in demand. There are two different types of changes in demand, and even though students do confuse these two, well, they are very easy to understand and straightforward. The two types of changes in demand that we have are: 1, change in quantity demanded, and 2, change in demand. A change in quantity demanded is also known as movement along the demand curve, while the other one, which is known as change in demand, is the same thing as a shift in demand. We shall now be taking them one after the other. There are two types of changes in demand. They include the following: change in quantity demanded or movement along the demand curve, and change in demand or shift in demand. The first one, change in quantity demanded. This is otherwise known as the movement along the demand curve. This arises as a result of a change in the price of a commodity, while all other factors remain constant. Like I said earlier on, it is very easy to differentiate between the two. Don't forget, in our last discussion, we consider the factors affecting demand. And these factors included price of the commodity, price of that commodity, income of the consumer, and so on and so forth. So in differentiating between these two types of changes in demand, we shall break these factors into two. The first category is known as price of the commodity, while the other factors combined form the second category. So for us to have a change in quantity demanded, this usually arises whenever there is a change in the price of a particular commodity, while all other factors are said to be constant. What this simply means is that it is only a change in the price of a commodity that can bring about a change in quantity demanded. So therefore, there is a change in quantity demanded whenever only the price of a commodity changes, while all other factors remain constant. So it is only the price of the commodity that can bring about a change in quantity demanded. And in explaining this one further, don't forget in our last discussion also, we considered the laws of demand. So whenever there is an increase in the price of a given commodity, ceteris paribus, there is going to be a decrease in the quantity demanded. That is, as the price increases, other things being equal, the quantity demanded by consumer tends to reduce, and vice versa. Consumers tend to buy less quantity of goods and services when there is increase in prices, and they tend to buy more when there is decrease in prices. So that is that about a change in quantity demanded. It arises due to a change only in the price of a commodity. So it is only a change in the price of the commodity that usually brings about change in quantity demanded, or movement along the demand curve. In this case, all other factors such as price of that commodity, income of the consumer, consumer preference, and so on and so forth are said to be constant. They remain unchanged. It is only the price that changes, which usually brings about a change in quantity demanded. Let's go further. Let's look at a diagram. For better understanding of this, it can be illustrated with the diagram. Look at it. This is a change in quantity demanded curve. You can only see we have different prices at different prices, different quantities were demanded. When the price was 4 naira, the quantity demanded was 300 units. By the time the price increased from 4 naira to 6 naira, the quantity demanded decreased from 300 units to 200 units. When the price increased from 6 naira to 8 naira, the quantity demanded reduced from 200 units to 100 units, testifying to the laws of demand, which says the higher the price, ceteris paribus, the lower the quantity demanded, and vice versa. Looking at this movement, the movement from A to B and to C all take place along the same demand curve. Every change you see here takes place on this singular demand curve. That is why we call it movement along the demand. All the changes take place on the same demand curve. So when the price increased from 4 naira to 6 naira, we have a movement on the demand curve from point C to point B, indicating a decrease from 300 units to 200 units. So the only thing that is visible here that is changing, that has been bringing about changes in quantity demanded, has always been only the what? Only the price. From 4 naira to 6 naira to 8 naira, giving us different quantities demanded. 100 units, 100 units, 300 units. So in summary, a change in quantity demanded arises as a result of a change only in the price of a given commodity. Let's continue. From the above diagram illustrating changes in quantity demanded, as the price decreases from 8 naira to 4 naira, the quantity demanded increases from 100 to 300. Movement took place from A to B and to C on the same demand curve DD, and that is what is known as movement on a demand curve. Let's continue. The next one is a change in demand. While discussing change in quantity demanded, we said it arises due to a change only in the price of a commodity, while all other factors remain constant. So in the case of a change in demand or a shift in demand, in this case, the price of the commodity is assumed to be constant, while other factors change. So just the direct opposite of the explanation we have under change in quantity demanded. So when there is a change in demand or a shift in demand, the price is assumed to be constant. So meaning that changes in other factors other than the price of the commodity usually brings about a change in demand or a shift in demand. And what are these other factors? Price of other commodities, income of the consumer, consumer's taste, weather, and so on and so forth. These are the other factors that can bring about a change in demand. So let's look at it. A change in demand is caused by those factors that bring about changes in demand, except the price of the commodity or service in question. Again, a change in demand is caused by those factors that bring about changes in demand, except the price of the commodity or service in question. So as you can see, the price is assumed to be constant. It is the change in other factors apart from the price that usually bring about a change in demand or a shift in demand. In other words, in a change in demand, while price remains constant, other factors will bring about increase or decrease in the quantity of goods and services bought. It is also known as a shift in demand curve. It is also known as a shift in demand curve. So let's look at the diagram illustration, the diagrammatic illustration of this. This shift in demand curve can be illustrated thus. You can see we have the price, a fixed price, P at PU, just one level of price, indicating that the commodity is still being sold and bought at the same price. The price does not change, unlike the change in quantity demanded, where the price changes. Under shift in demand or change in demand, the price remains constant. By this constant, this fixed price, changes in other factors apart from the price has been bringing about changes in demand or shifting in what? In demand. And demand curve can either shift to the right or shift to the left. When the demand curve shifts to the right, this indicates an increase in demand. And when the demand curve shifts to the left, it indicates a decrease in demand, depending on the nature of the change in the other factors. Let's look at this critically. We have DO. This is the original demand curve. And that gives us the quantity demanded as what? QO. So let's assume that at this particular usual price, let's consider this particular commodity. Let's look at chairs and table, for instance. Chairs and table. Now these two commodities are in a joint demand. And don't forget, I told you in our last discussion that whenever there is a change in the price of one of complementary goods, there's going to be a change in the demand for the other one. Now, let's assume the price of chairs has increased from 100 naira to 200 naira. And when it was sold at the rate of 100 naira, the quantity demanded for both chairs and tables happens to be 300 units each. But now there has been a change in the price of chair from 100 naira to 150 naira. Definitely that will bring about a decrease in the quantity demanded for what? For chairs. So automatically, as there's going to be a decrease in the demand for chairs, there will surely be a decrease in the demand for what? For tables. Because they are what? They are in joint demand. They are usually bought and used together to serve a what? To serve a purpose. So that is that. So we have our DO as usual demand curve. Then we have from DO, a movement from DO to what? To D1. That is a movement to what? To the right. That shows an increase in what? An increase in demand. So we can have an increase in demand for this time, for table for this time, assuming that the chair in question, assuming the price of the chair reduced. You know, when there is a decrease in the price of chair, other things being equal, there's going to be an increase in the demand for what? For that chair, and automatically bringing about an increase in the demand for table. So that situation can make the demand curve to shift to the right. Also, a shift to the left indicates a decrease in what? A decrease in the demand curve. So let's move on. From the above demand curve, DO is the original demand curve, and a change in demand curve can cause the curve to shift either to the right, D1, or to the left, D2. A shift of demand curve to the right, D1, is referred to as increase in demand, while a shift of the demand of the curve to the left, D2, is known as a decrease in demand. That already has been explained. From the above demand curve, DO is the original demand curve as explained, and a change in demand can cause the curve to shift to either to the right, D1, or to the left, D2. A shift of demand curve to the right, D1, is referred to as increase in demand, while a shift of the curve to the left, D2, is known as a decrease in demand. Let's look at that diagram once again. You can look at it. We have DO, that is the original demand curve. Then we have a shift to the right, that is from DO to D1. This is D1. That is a shift to the right. So that indicates an increase in demand, as you can see. Then also a shift in demand from DO to the left, D2. This is a shift to the left. That is a what? A decrease in what? A decrease in demand. Now let's move on. Now the next one is exceptional or abnormal demand. Now we have normal demand, and from our previous discussion, a normal demand curve slopes downward from left to right, indicating increase in demand curve as a sort of reduction in what? In the price. Don't forget, I told you that we have an indirect relationship between the price and quantity demanded. That whenever the price rises, other things being equal, the quantity demanded what? Falls. And whenever price falls, other things being equal, quantity demanded rises. That explains the downward sloping of the demand curve. That is how or why the demand curve slows downward from left to right. When price increases, quantity demanded reduces. But coming down to exceptional demand curve or abnormal demand curve, we are referring to the type of demand that goes against the laws of a normal demand. The laws of a normal demand state that when price increases, ceteris paribus, quantity demanded reduces and vice versa. So when you now have a case whereby whenever price increases, the quantity demanded also increases, or whenever price reduces, the quantity demanded reduces, then we are talking of an exceptional or an abnormal demand situation. So exceptional or abnormal demand is a demand pattern which does not abide with the laws of demand and therefore gives rise to the reverse of the basic laws of demand. Thus, at a higher price, increased quantities are demanded, while a normal demand curve slopes downward from left to right, and abnormal demand curve slopes upward from left to right, indicating that as the price of a commodity increases, the quantity demanded also increases and vice versa. So in summary, an abnormal demand is a situation whereby as price of a commodity increases, the quantity demanded also increases. And I told you just the opposite, the first case of what? Of a normal demand curve. Normal demand curve slopes downward from left to right, while an abnormal demand curve slopes upward from left to right, indicating increase, the fact that as price increases, the quantity demanded also increases. Now, this is a graphical illustration of an abnormal demand curve. As you can see, the demand curve slopes upward from left to right. And you can see as price rises, the quantity demanded also rises, indicating an abnormal situation. When the price was 1 naira, the quantity demanded was 30 units. When the price increased from 1 naira to 2 naira, quantity demanded also increased from 30 units to 40 units. When the price increased from 2 naira to 3 naira, the quantity demanded increased from 40 units to 50 units. This an opposite, is a direct opposite of what we have under normal demand situation. So this is an abnormal demand. When price increases, the quantity demanded also increases and vice versa. Finally, let us quickly look at the causes of abnormal demand. Let's look at those factors that usually bring about an abnormal or an exceptional demand situation. These are some of the factors or causes. We have the first one, inferior goods. Second one, articles of ostentation, future expectation, ignorance, bandwagon effect, snob effect. We shall now be taking these factors one after the other. The first one is known as inferior goods. Inferior goods are also known as given goods. And what are inferior goods? Inferior goods are goods and services whose demand rises as the income of consumer falls. They are goods whose demand falls as the income of consumer rises. So these are inferior goods. Under normal circumstances, whenever there is an increase in the income of a consumer, it is expected that the demand for goods and services by that particular consumer is supposed to increase. But in the case of an inferior goods, whenever there is an increase in the income of consumer, the quantity demanded for such goods usually falls. Or whenever there is a decrease in the level of consumer's income, the demand for such goods usually rises. That is a situation of an inferior goods or a given goods. They are goods whose demand rises as income of consumers falls. So that is that. You can ask examples of such inferior goods, like gari. I'm talking of good, of low quality. Good of low quality. Let me give you an example. We have a consumer who has been receiving very low level of income. The level of income is so small to the extent that he could only make do with food such as garri on a good day. But this particular consumer has not been able to secure a better job that offers a very good salary. So this has now made this particular individual, as a result of an increased level of income, this particular individual is no longer interested in going after garri. He now buys semovita. He buys beverages in place of garri that used to take. Can I see that as his level of income increases, one will expect that he's able to buy more quantity of garri, but instead of doing so, he reduces the quantity of garri while he goes for something better than that. So that is inferior goods. So this can bring about an exceptional demand situation. Like I said earlier on, when we talk about inferior goods, these are goods whose consumer will buy less as his income rises and vice versa. And we say under normal situation, when the income of consumer rises, the demand for by that particular consumer also supposed to rise. The next is articles of ostentation. Articles of ostentation, these are highly expensive goods. These are luxurious goods. Most consumers usually prefer to buy commodities that are highly expensive. The reason being that they buying these particular commodities or these goods usually confer on them special status that tend to make them to be appreciated in the public. So the rationale behind the use of ostentation articles is that those that use them normally buy them for the purpose of showing off. They want people to recognize them wherever they find themselves. So irrespective of the price of such commodities, they still find money to buy such commodities. So as the price of such commodities rises, such categories of consumers tend to buy more of them, because the rationale behind them buying them is just for the purpose of showing off. That is articles of ostentation. So for such consumers, whenever the price of such commodities fall, they tend to shy away or run away from such commodities because they feel that such commodities belittle their status. So we have examples such as expensive jewelries, gold, watches, and so on and so forth. The next one is future expectation. Yeah. The demand for a commodity tends to increase even as the price of that commodity increases, if there is this expectation that the price will increase further in the nearest future. So this situation also usually brings about abnormal demand situation. Let's say for instance, there is this item that you used to buy at the rate of 10 naira. And when the price of this commodity is sold at the rate of 10 naira, you normally buy 20 units of that particular commodity. On getting to the market this time around to buy the commodity as usual, you have been told that the price has increased from 10 naira to 11 naira. Under normal circumstances, you are expected to buy less due to the law of demand. But the seller is telling you that with the increase in the price from 10 naira to 11 naira, that the price increment has just started. That any moment from now, the price is going to increase further. So as a rational consumer, instead of buying the unit you have been buying initially or even buying less, you are going to buy more. So that you didn't need to buy it at a more higher price in the nearest future. So that is future expectation. So if there is this rumor that there is going to be future increase in the price of a given commodity, the demand for that commodity will be high now, even with an initial increase in what? In the price. That's another factor. Ignorance. Ignorance is another factor, another cause of abnormal demand. Consumers tend to buy more of particular commodities at a higher price due to the fact that they lack proper knowledge about the commodity they are buying. Let's take for instance, we all know that there is a difference between a Sharp TV and Toshiba. There is a difference between them in terms of quality, even in terms of price. Everyone knows that Sharp quality product is far more expensive than Toshiba product, and every person longs to have Sharp products. But you now have this electronic dealer that specializes in the sale of this TV. He has this Toshiba product, but in order to now make this product look like Sharp product to consumers, he removes the sticker of Toshiba and replaces it with that of Sharp, such that any consumer seeing such a commodity will think is buying a Sharp product. So in that situation, such a commodity will be sold to the unsuspecting consumer at the price of what? Sharp product. Simply because that he has used his packaging to deceive the consumer into believing that what he is selling to him is a Sharp product. So that situation also can also make a consumer to buy more of the commodity at a higher price due to the fact that he or she lacks adequate information about that particular commodity that he or she is buying. Another cause of abnormal demand is known as bandwagon effect. Yes, the demand for a particular commodity can increase even as the price of that commodity increases, simply because every Dick and Harry is now buying the commodity. Yeah, there are some category of consumers that fall in that category, that once there is this particular commodity that is in full, which everybody is buying and using, so everybody would like to be associated with such a particular commodity. The price of the commodity may be increasing, consumers will still be buying because they wouldn't want to be left out. So when the demand for a commodity increases, simply because a lot of people are using such a commodity at that particular point in time, then we say such a commodity is affected by bandwagon effect. Consumers are less concerned about the price increment. What propels them, the factor that prompts them into buying, is the fact that they want to belong. They want to be part of those that we have the opportunity of using that particular commodity at that point in time. Another cause is known as snub effect. Snub effect is just the direct opposite of a bandwagon effect. Yeah, this arises when consumers are disassociating themselves from the use of a particular commodity. When consumers don't want to be associated with a commodity, simply because it is now being used generally, it is now being popularly known everywhere, and they're now trying to kind of dissociate themselves from such a particular commodity. They will say such a commodity is suffering from snub effect. Even the price of the commodity may be falling, still consumers will still be running away from it because of the fact that they don't want to be associated with it, simply because it is a commodity that is being used by virtually everybody, and they don't want to They want to be associated with that particular offering any longer. So once again, this is where we are going to bring the class to a close today. In our discussion today, we considered changes in demand. And you are made to understand that there are two types of changes in demand. We have change in quantity demanded, and we have change in demand. You have also been informed that change in quantity demanded is also known as movement along the demand curve, while change in demand is also known as shift in demand. You are told that change in quantity demanded arises as a result of a change only in the price of a commodity, while all other factors remain constant. While a change in demand arises when other factors other than the price change, while the price of the commodity remains constant. Then we look at abnormal or exceptional demand. We said the type of demand that violates or that does not abide by the laws of normal demand. The type of demand, a situation that arises when price increases, the quantity demanded also increases. We said an abnormal demand curve slopes upward from left to right. Then after that, we consider the factors, the causes of abnormal or exceptional demand. We look at inferior goods, articles of ostentation, future expectation, ignorance, bandwagon effect, snob effect, and so on and so forth. This is where we are going to drop the curtains of today's class. I pray to Almighty Allah to put barakah in everything we do. I pray and ask for Allah continue the protection and provision for every one of us. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.